Today, I want to tell you the story of Tiffany Mead, who survived an attempt on her life at the hands of her husband twice. This case begins in Davis County, Utah, just after midnight on July 24th, 2013. Tiffany Mead had just called 911 to report a neck wound. Her throat had been slashed from one side to the other. Somehow, managing to talk as the trachea had not been severely damaged, Tiffany explained the neck injury. When the dispatcher asked who did it, she said, "Me." Tiffany was calling the cops from inside of her purple PT Cruiser while stopped on the road in front of Davis High School. Her husband, Chris Ertman, and her 2-year-old son, Noah, were in the car with her when she called. An ambulance was sent out to pick her up. She arrived at the hospital in critical condition with a severe neck wound. Detectives arrived on scene and were told upon arrival that Tiffany had changed her story. She told officials that she didn't actually cut her own throat. Her estranged husband, who was in the car with her, had done it and then forced her to call the cops and report it as self-inflicted. Police discovered the car covered in blood, but not just on the inside, on the outside as well. This made them think the attack had most likely happened outside of the car, and then both her and her husband got back in. They learned that Tiffany and her husband had first met up that night in a secluded park about a mile away from where her car was found. When police went there to search the area, they discovered this was most likely where it had all happened. Chris Ertman was photographed and his clothes were taken as evidence. He told police that his wife had tried to take her own life and he helped her out, tried saving her, and that was about it. Chris Ertman worked for a painting contractor and he and Tiffany had actually been married 5 years. They had 2 children but were currently going through a divorce and had met that night so he could give her a child support check. According to her husband Chris, they exchanged a few words when all of a sudden she put the knife to her own neck and did it. Police explained to him that rarely do people actually choose to take their life that way, especially a mother in front of her own child. And then she just willingly got back in her car and drove them a mile away only to stop and finally call police. They explained to Chris, this doesn't add up. Chris Ertman was arrested and charged with attempted murder. Tiffany survived the attack, was able to testify against her husband, and was left to live with an enormous scar across her neck. Tiffany told police she only agreed to meet her almost ex-husband that night because he promised to bring the check. She said, "He told me not to bring anyone and kept reminding me to come alone." But she texted him on her way and said she actually brought their 2-year-old son. They both parked at the desolate park and got out to talk. Tiffany claims Chris suddenly grabbed her and backed her up against the car door. He had one hand on her mouth as he slowly pulled the knife out of his pocket and slit her throat. When he uncovered her mouth, Tiffany told him she was getting dizzy. I mean, she did just have her throat cut. So he opened the car door and made her sit down. He made her say she loved him and that she would get back together with him. Then he made her seal it with a kiss while blood was literally seeping out of her neck. Tiffany then explained that she needed to call 911 and told him, "I'll make up a story." She drove them somewhere less desolate and then called 911 claiming she had done it. She drove with one hand on the steering wheel and the other on her neck. Chris Ertman eventually tried again from jail to get Tiffany killed. After he'd been put away, he wanted to silence her, this time for good. He hired a hitman and they eventually got him on the charge because over the jailhouse phone, he confirmed the deal. Chris Ertman took a deal that would land him anywhere from 6 years to the rest of his life in prison. So today we'll think about Tiffany Mead and how she survived 2 attempted murders at the hands of her husband.